I'm Emily Grant. I'm 31 years old. I work in emergency communication systems for the state of Virginia. I'm not the loud one. I don't cause trouble. I don't post dramatic Facebook statuses or argue at Thanksgiving. But I've always known how to disappear, not physically, emotionally, quietly. My mother passed away when I was 12. Cancer. It was quick. My father remarried just 8 months later. Her name was Diane. She came with a daughter of her own, Natalie. You could call it a blended family. But really, it was just a reset. Natalie became the new daughter, and I became a shadow. Over the years, I faded from family photos, invites, and group chats. When my birthday came, I got a polite text. When Natalie's came, there was cake, a slideshow, and a balloon arch. Still, I smiled. I stayed polite. I thought that maybe if I didn't rock the boat, they'd remember I existed. They didn't. Natalie got engaged. Everyone was thrilled. The photos were everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, even in a printed newsletter my dad sends to extended family. I heard nothing. No call, no message, no save the date. 3 days before the wedding, I received an email from my father. It read, "Hey Emily, here's the live stream link so you can still be part of the celebration. Natalie wants to keep it small." Small. There were 150 guests. I recognized at least 40 of them from the pictures. I watched the live stream, alone, from my apartment. They decorated the garden like a fairy tale. Diane wore a blue dress. Natalie glowed in white. My father gave a speech that began with, "I've been blessed with one amazing daughter." That was the moment I stopped watching, but I didn't shut the screen. I just waited. Because earlier that week I had scheduled a test signal, a routine EBS systems check through our partner network. It was set for 4:42 p.m., right after the cake cutting, just a standard test pattern. Static tones, nothing out of the ordinary. Except I changed one thing: the audio. The screen flickered. The guests looked confused. The music stopped. And then they heard my voice. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. But this message is for those who have been silenced, for the daughters who were told to smile and stay quiet, for the ones left off the guest list. This is your signal. My father used to call me his quiet genius. Back when my mom was still around, he'd sit next to me at the kitchen table watching me do puzzles meant for kids twice my age. He used to say I could do anything, and I believed him. But that version of him didn't last long after Mom died. She passed in March. By November, he had Diane. She was bright and organized, the kind of woman who color-coded Christmas decorations and signed every email with warmest regards. She also had a daughter, Natalie. And Natalie was loud, beautiful, affectionate, everything I wasn't. At first, I thought we'd be close. I tried. I shared my books, helped her with homework, even gave her my favorite hoodie when she cried the night of her parents' divorce. But it became clear quickly: Diane wasn't interested in merging families. She was building her own. Dad stopped mentioning my mom. Her photos were quietly taken down from the living room walls. Her wedding ring was tucked into a drawer. Diane redecorated, rearranged, rewrote history, one curtain and cabinet at a time. By the time I turned 16, I was just a house guest. If I needed a ride to school, I called a neighbor. If I was sick, I took care of myself. On holidays, I was asked to take the family photo, never be in it. I moved out the moment I got my scholarship to Virginia Tech, majored in computer engineering with a minor in crisis communications. I graduated top of my class, got hired straight into a government subcontractor agency handling emergency broadcast infrastructure. My father didn't attend my graduation. He said Natalie had a dentist appointment that day. Still, I kept calling him every few weeks, sent him birthday cards, invited him to dinner when I got promoted. He always had a reason not to come. Then came the announcement: Natalie's engagement. The photos exploded across social media. Engagement party, dress fitting, bridal shower. My name never came up. Even friends I hadn't spoken to in years sent messages like, "Aren't you going to the wedding?" I smiled and typed back, "I wasn't invited." The silence after that was louder than any wedding bells. Still, I told myself it was fine. I didn't need closure or recognition or a white tablecloth meal. But something in me cracked when that email came, the one with the live stream link. It was the wording. "So you can still be part of the celebration." as if I hadn't spent the last 15 years being erased from their idea of family. I wasn't angry, not in the explosive throw-a-glass kind of way. It was more like a slow sinking weight, not heartbreak, just confirmation. They had moved on without me, and worse, they wanted me to applaud from the sidelines. That night, I walked into my office, turned on my screen, and looked at the upcoming EBS test queue. Each month, our agency schedules regional test signals across partnered local stations. It's routine, unnoticed. My job is to insert test data, rotate signals, and clear backups. Most of the time, it's boring. But I noticed something. One of the tests was set to run during the wedding hour. A cluster of low-traffic digital stations would broadcast a tone and caption feed for 30 seconds. It wouldn't interrupt major networks, it wouldn't reach everyone, but it would reach some. And it could be captured, recorded, shared. The idea came fast and quiet like most of my thoughts. It wasn't revenge, not really. It was visibility. Just once I wanted them to see me, to hear what I had carried all these years. And more importantly, I wanted the ones like me, the forgotten ones, to know they weren't alone. So I scheduled a voice clip under test ID 4539A, title Personal Signal. The day the email came, it was raining. I was sitting on my lunch break in the back stairwell of the office, eating a cold sandwich and scrolling through work notifications. I wasn't expecting anything personal. I never was. But there it was, from Dad. Subject Saturday, no greeting, no warmth, just a 4-sentence message. Hey, Emily, Natalie's wedding will be this Saturday at 4 p.m. She wanted something small, just family and close friends. Here's the live stream link so you can still be part of the celebration. I read it 3 times. Still be part. As if I had been part at all. As if I hadn't been watching this family grow from the outside for over a decade. I didn't reply. I just stared at the blinking cursor on the email for 10 minutes, then deleted it. But I couldn't forget the words. No invitation, no phone call, no explanation. Just a link. I knew the wedding would be big. Diane was the kind of woman who planned everything 6 months ahead, down to the flower colors and napkin folds. I knew there would be a guest book, a string quartet, maybe even a drone to capture aerial shots. But there wouldn't be me. I was never angry at Natalie. She was just living the life that had been handed to her. Maybe she didn't even realize what I had lost. But my father, he knew. He was the one who held my hand at Mom's funeral. He was the one who promised we'd never be alone. And now he was giving away another daughter, the one who hadn't watched Mom fade away, the one who didn't cry in hospital hallways or sleep with the door open, waiting for her to come home. He was giving Natalie everything I never got, and he wanted me to smile and watch it online. So I did. Saturday came. I made tea, pulled a blanket over my legs, and opened the live stream link at exactly 4:00 p.m. The screen flickered to life, showing a beautiful garden filled with white chairs, soft flowers, and golden light. Guests were laughing, sipping champagne. A harpist played something soft. Then the music changed, and everyone stood up. Natalie walked down the aisle, radiant, her arm linked with my father's. He looked proud, the way he used to look at me. And when he gave his toast, I have been blessed with an incredible daughter. He said I felt something cold in my chest shift. He wasn't lying. He just wasn't talking about me. The camera panned to the crowd, all of them smiling, clapping, raising glasses. I recognized relatives I hadn't seen in years. My Aunt Martha, my cousin Janie, even Mr. Kelly, our old neighbor from when I was 10. They were all there. All of them. Except me. And I couldn't stop thinking, what story had he told them? That I was too busy, too distant, too difficult? Was I the family embarrassment now, the one you quietly stop inviting? I closed my laptop, sat in silence, but then I remembered something. The EBS test, the one I had queued for later that evening, just a simple system ping, part of a regional check. Low profile. Would air for less than a minute across a handful of local stations. Most people wouldn't even notice it, but some would. I hadn't added the voice clip yet. It was still just a blank tone. I stood up, went back to the office, logged in with my credentials, and clicked into the scheduler, test ID 4539A, Slot 4, 42 p.m. stations, WBRQ, KLIN, MZ, Local 3. I attached the file. It was short, just under 40 seconds. My voice, calm, even, no names, no accusations, just the truth. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This message is also for the daughters left behind, for the ones who got the link instead of a seat, the ones edited out of photos. This is not an alert. This is a reminder: you exist, you matter, you are not invisible. I saved it, signed off, and waited. I didn't feel nervous. That was the strange part. Once the decision was made, once the file was uploaded and the test slot confirmed, I felt quiet. Not angry, not giddy, just clear. I wasn't trying to sabotage a wedding. I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone. This wasn't about them, not anymore. It was about me and the years I had spent shrinking, apologizing for existing, waiting on the edges of other people's joy. This was the first time I was doing something just for me. I spent the rest of Saturday morning like any normal day. I cleaned my kitchen. I fed my cat. I read an article about satellites and took a nap. When I woke up, it was 3:50 p.m. I made tea, jasmine, wrapped myself in a blanket, and opened the live stream again. Not because I wanted to watch, but because I wanted to be present, even from a distance. The wedding had started. Guests were seated. The music was light and elegant. There were floral arches, gold-trimmed chairs, white linens. A drone buzzed overhead, capturing everything. Natalie looked beautiful. I'll admit it. She wore a soft A-line dress veil tucked gently behind her ears and held a bouquet of wildflowers. Diane wiped tears. My father stood tall, one hand holding Natalie's, the other tucked behind his back, like he was presenting royalty. They said vows, they laughed, they kissed. At 4:39 p.m., the camera showed the reception area. People were lining up for champagne. Kids ran between tables. Someone handed out glow sticks. A speech began, probably the best man. And then 4:41. I looked at the taskbar on my screen. Test ID 4539A was blinking, pending activation. I leaned forward, no hesitation. I clicked confirm send. The system accepted the request. Test initiated. The next 30 seconds were out of my hands. I waited. On screen, the reception was still going. No disruption. No one noticed anything strange. But I knew where the signal was going. Not to that wedding venue. To small digital broadcast zones in 3 states. Local stations where elderly people still left their TVs running in the background. Nursing homes, dinette diners, gas stations with muted screens. And in those places, my voice would be heard. I imagined someone sitting alone in a recliner watching an old rerun when suddenly the broadcast tone beeped. And then my voice. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This message is also for the daughters left behind, for the ones who got the link instead of a seat, the ones edited out of photos. This is not an alert. This is a reminder. You exist. You matter. You are not invisible. The message lasted just 36 seconds. Then the regular programming resumed. That was it. No explosion, no alarms, just a pulse. I didn't expect anything more. But I had underestimated something: the power of people paying attention. Someone did record it. An employee at a gas station in Ohio. He thought it was a glitch or a hack and uploaded the clip to Reddit with the title, "Did anyone else catch this weird EBS test?" From there, it jumped. The next morning, the clip had 17,000 views. By Monday, a Twitter thread broke it down frame by frame. By Tuesday, it was on TikTok. People were adding subtitles, theories, voiceovers, hashtags. The forgotten signal had "you are not invisible the daughter" broadcast. No one knew who had done it, and no one needed to, because the message wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. It hit a nerve. Thousands of comments poured in, and "my mom did this to me. I cried hearing this. My sister passed away, and my dad just started over like we never mattered." It spread like quiet wildfire. Not viral in the usual way, but deep, soul level. Private shares between daughters and mothers, between estranged siblings, between women who had been edited out of their own families. I didn't speak publicly. I didn't need to. The ones who were meant to hear it heard it. And the ones who ignored people like me, they could keep smiling in their photo albums. I didn't post the clip, but I saved a copy. Just one. Not to relive it, but to remind myself that I had spoken out loud, even if no one knew it was me, even if no one ever found out. I had broken the silence, and that was enough. At first, the family didn't notice. The reception carried on. Someone tapped a glass for a speech. Diane passed out sparklers. Natalie changed into a second dress, flowy peach-colored, easier to dance in. I kept the live stream window open, just watched, waiting for a ripple. And then at 5:06 p.m., the first text arrived. It was from my cousin Janie. She and I hadn't spoken in years. Her message read, "Emily, was that you, that's all it said." I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, another text. This time from a former coworker at the agency. "You've seen this, right? It's blowing up. Check TikTok." I opened the app. The first thing I saw was a split screen on the left, the wedding live stream. On the right, a grainy clip of the EBS broadcast. The caption read, "She didn't get an invite, so she broadcasted her pain." The comments were overwhelming. This hit harder than any speech I've heard. "I don't know who you are, but I heard you." This gave me chills. I thought I was alone. By 7 p.m., a YouTube creator had made a reaction video. By 9 p.m., someone on Twitter claimed to have traced the voice to a public LinkedIn profile. Not confirmed, just speculation. But it was enough to stir the waters. And eventually, inevitably, my father saw it. I don't know who showed him first. Probably a guest. Or maybe Diane, who always has her phone half in her hand. But I'll never forget the look on his face when he called me, because yes, he finally called. Sunday morning, 10:14 a.m. The screen of my phone lit up with the name I hadn't seen in months. Dad. I stared at it, let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. His voice was sharp, panicked, almost breathless. "Emily, what did you do?" I didn't answer immediately. He asked again louder. "Was that you on the broadcast? That test signal thing?" Still, I said nothing. He continued. "There are reporters calling, people tagging us online. You embarrassed Natalie." That was when I spoke. "I didn't name anyone, Dad." Silence. He stumbled, caught off guard. "What, I didn't mention your name, or hers, or Diane. I didn't even say mine. But people are guessing. They're assuming it was you." "That's not my fault." He exhaled, angry now. "You crossed a line." I felt myself smile, for the first time in a long while. "I think you did that years ago." Another silence, and then the line disconnected. He didn't call back. I didn't expect him to, but the fallout had already begun. By Monday, several media blogs had picked up the story. Some called it a digital act of emotional protest. Others were less kind, but the conversation was happening. On podcasts, in comment sections, on message boards filled with women who'd been pushed aside in their own homes. Some people thought it was fake, a staged PSA. Others thought it was genius, therapeutic, necessary. But no matter the reaction, people were talking. And then came the part I hadn't prepared for. Natalie reached out. An email. Subject line, "I didn't know." She wrote, "I thought you chose not to come. I asked Mom where you were and she said you were too busy. I didn't know they only sent you a link. I didn't know they kept you out of everything. I thought you were just distant." She didn't apologize. Not exactly. But I could feel it. In the space between her words. And for a moment, I felt something close to peace. Not because it made everything okay, but because at least one person saw me now, even if just a little. After that, I kept my head down, deleted some old photos, took some time off work, walked more, slept better. The agency never questioned the test signal. It was just within protocol, nothing broken, no laws violated. If they knew what I'd done, they didn't say. And I didn't offer anything. But something had changed in me. I no longer flinched when I heard wedding bells and commercials. I no longer felt the need to justify my absence from people's memories, because I had written myself back in my own way, with my own voice, quiet, but not silent. And they heard it. All of them. For once, I was not just watching life happen through someone else's screen. I had interrupted it. I had entered it, even if only for 36 seconds, and I would never fade out again. The days that followed were quieter than I expected. The internet moved on as it always does. By Wednesday, the clip had already been pushed down by another trending story, a celebrity divorce, a political scandal, a baby animal video. My voice was still out there floating in the cloud, but it had stopped echoing. And somehow that made me feel better. It had been heard, it had done its work, and now it could rest. But inside my family, the storm hadn't passed. I didn't hear from my father again. Not a word. The silence was sharp, deliberate. Not the kind that comes from confusion, but the kind that comes from pride, from the refusal to admit you did something wrong. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just vanished again, only this time I wasn't the one being erased. A week later, my Aunt Martha called. She sounded cautious, like she wasn't sure what version of me she'd reach. I just wanted to say, I saw it. The broadcast. It was beautiful, Emily. I didn't know what to say to that. She continued, Your mother would have been proud. You sounded just like her. I thanked her. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing deep, just simple, careful kindness. But it was enough. After we hung up, I cried. Not from sadness, from release. All those years I had held my breath waiting to be acknowledged, to be allowed back in. I finally realized I didn't need permission anymore. I had never needed it. There was a power in knowing that. At work, things returned to normal. Mostly. I kept my head down. No one confronted me. No one accused me. But one day my supervisor, Kim, walked by my desk. She didn't stop, didn't look at me. But as she passed, she said softly, Nice use of the test window. That was it. No smile, no wink. But it told me everything she knew. And she wasn't going to say a word. After that, I started going home earlier. I picked up new books, cooked more. I took a break from screens, took walks without my phone. And slowly the bitterness began to fade. I wasn't angry anymore, not even at Diane, not even at my father. I had done what I needed to do, not for vengeance, not to punish, but to free myself. Some people heal in therapy, some through prayer. Me, I healed through 36 seconds of national static and a few words spoken from the heart. One day, about a month after the wedding, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten, no return address. But I knew the handwriting. It was Natalie. The letter was short, no long explanations, no excuses. Just this, I know now that silence isn't peace. Thank you for showing me that. I'm sorry for what I didn't see. I read it 3 times, folded it carefully, placed it in the back of my closet with a few old photos I'd kept. I didn't respond, but I didn't need to. She had heard me, in her own time. And sometimes, that's all we can hope for. After that, I started to think differently about my past. Not as a burden, but as a story. Not as something to hide, but something to share when the moment is right, when the signal is clear. And I promised myself this: I would never again settle for being an audience member in my own life. If no one gives me the mic, I'll find the frequency, and I'll speak. I didn't go back to work right away. After everything, I took a few weeks of unused vacation days and gave myself space to think. I didn't want to fall back into the same version of myself, the silent worker, the one who smiled politely and said nothing. That person had kept me safe, yes, but she had also kept me small. So I made a different choice. I didn't quit my job. I liked the work, I liked the systems, the logic, the structure. But I started drawing boundaries. I declined late meetings. I said no without guilt. And maybe most importantly, I stopped waiting for people to ask me how I felt. If I wanted to speak, I spoke. in small ways at first, then bigger ones. A few weeks later, I started volunteering with a local nonprofit that helped girls in group homes learn tech skills. One Saturday, I stood in front of a room full of teenage girls and showed them how a broadcast signal travels. I told them about the emergency broadcast system. I didn't tell them my story, not yet. But I saw something in their eyes, recognition. Like they too were waiting for someone to show them where the switch was. And that's when I knew this wasn't about a wedding. It wasn't even about my family. It was about making noise in a world that prefers quiet women. A month after the wedding, I moved to a new apartment. Smaller, simpler, with more light. I sold the old bookshelf that had once held all my family photos. In its place, I put up a single frame, no picture, just a piece of paper with the words, "You are not invisible." It reminded me, every day, I never spoke to my father again. Not out of bitterness, but because I no longer needed his acknowledgement to exist. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Natalie sent a follow-up letter around Christmas. She included a photo of us from when we were teenagers, sitting on the back porch, legs dangling, both eating ice cream. On the back, she wrote, "I found this in a drawer. I never forgot this day." This time I wrote back, just a simple note. "Thank you. I remember too." That was enough. I didn't rebuild my family. I didn't reunite for holidays or exchange gifts. But I rebuilt something else, my own sense of belonging. And I built it without permission. That in itself was everything. Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's just one small, steady voice saying, "I'm here." And after years of being asked to shrink, to step aside, to stay silent, I had finally said something real. And even though it only lasted 36 seconds, it echoed far beyond what I imagined. Not because it changed the world, but because it changed me. People think silence is peace, that if no one is yelling, no one is hurting. But silence can be the loudest form of abandonment. It can wrap itself around a life like fog, soft, slow, almost gentle, until one day you realize you can't see yourself anymore. For years, I thought I had to earn my place in other people's lives. Be polite, be helpful, be small. Don't ask for too much. Don't expect to be chosen. But here's the truth. No one ever told me family is not built on blood. It's built on presence, on those who stay, on those who listen. Sometimes it's the ones who raised us who do the most damage, not through cruelty, but through absence, through forgetting, through erasing us piece by piece while smiling like nothing is wrong. And when that happens, when you're told that your only role is to watch life from the sidelines, it's easy to believe you don't matter. But you do. Your voice matters, your place matters, your story matters. Whether you're 31 or 71, it's never too late to step back into the center of your life, to say I was here, to take up space without apology. The world doesn't always reward the quiet ones, but that doesn't mean you stay silent. It means you speak when it matters most, even if it's only for 36 seconds. To anyone listening who has felt pushed aside, the daughter left off the invitation list, the parent forgotten after giving everything, the friend who stopped being included, the spouse who became invisible in their own home. You are not the problem, and you are not alone. You don't need a broadcast system to be seen. You don't need revenge to be free. You only need the courage to stop waiting for permission. Stand in your story. Tell it if only to yourself at first. Say the words out loud even if your voice shakes, because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is refuse to disappear. And when you do, you'll realize you were never asking for too much, only asking to be seen, to be loved, to be real. That's not selfish. That's human. And no one, no matter how polished their wedding, how pretty their pictures, or how tight their smiles, has the right to take that away from you.